Good morning. Welcome to Tea Time with Amie and Bev.
Good morning.
Hello, hello. How's the
Hello.
world of Beverly?
It's good. We've had some good storms. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we could get a little bit more rain, but
I know.
I just love the lightning storms and stuff. It's awesome to sit and watch.
Sit
In the
with.
cooler, it's been cooler.
What is it about the storms that you enjoy?
You know, I don't know. I get really excited. I would probably say it has a lot to do with energy, to be quite honest with you. I've noticed, as I'm knocking you over, I noticed that
Earthquake.
it's like, woo, I'm on a boat. But I noticed that it's like I'll start noticing a shift in the energy. Like I'm like, oh, the energy just feels different. And it's like I don't know if that's what we were trying to figure out last night. We didn't do much research on it, how the storms can affect your body with negative ions or positive, because they actually talk a lot about negative ions with a lot of stuff to help balance things out. But it just feels good. Like it just is a good vibration. I get excited. But I'm a person, if you take me out in the middle of the woods, I'm like excited. I'm like a kid, like running around because it's the energy. I really do feel like it has to do with the energy. It just helps raise you up and lift you up. It's something that we don't experience all the time. It's for me, just like crying is like it's a good cleansing. The wind's a good cleansing, There's just, I don't know. It's pretty exciting. I like it. What about you?
Yep. Mother Nature is amazing. There was I did a meditation up in the mountains, and I took a lady with me, and I told her, I said, we're going to go up there, we're going to sit, and we're going to write. And when I was younger, I used to write some poetry, and I hadn't done it in a very long time. So I got up there and we're sitting there, and I was just being quiet and still and listening to the wind and the trees and the scents, and I just started writing, and I came up with this poem, and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's just something about being in nature that there is a cleansing, there's the grounding, the connection. Yeah. And I mean, you can't beat the light shows either when there's a thunderstorm. So a lightning show.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's awesome. And we
yeah.
had it all around last night. I mean, it was all around everywhere. Wallabies, it was off to Vegas, Utah, Phoenix. It was like all around us. So it's like freaking awesome.
And we got 0 at our house.
Did you?
0.
We got a little bit of rain. I mean, it wasn't that much, but like I always say, it cools the temperature down. It doesn't matter to me. It changes the temperature. It drops it down a little bit, and it just feels better. But it just feels better. That's the whole thing. It's maybe we don't need the cleansing as much as some other places need it. I don't know. Maybe it's just more of a show for us.
Yeah. Oh no, there's cleansing that needs to be done in our community for sure.
Always,
Not as
yeah,
heavy as other places, but
yeah. There's so much stuff with all that stuff because we talk about judgment. We talk about what's kind of really been hitting me lately is control. And it's like we don't realize how much we try to control everything. Making a list for our day is controlling how we're going to do our day. Like I'm questioning some stuff these days. I really am. I'm in a place where it doesn't make a lot of sense. At first, it wasn't making sense to question these things, but even for me to go in and try to control how I'm feeling or try to control, I feel like at this point right now where I'm at today, could change this afternoon. I feel like it's like whatever motivates you. If you're in the now, right now, all the rest of the stuff doesn't even matter. And it's like I see it outside of us too, because there's so much control that's trying to go on. But that's because we're trying to control everything within inside of ourselves, like everything. I've still caught myself trying to control stuff. We went to a swap meet just last weekend and just kind of walked around and looked at stuff. And I caught myself, and I didn't realize I was doing this. So people pleaser still, constantly looking for what the other person would like, not even looking for what I would like. And he would say, "Why don't you just go ahead and go looking around for what you want?" And then I realized right then well, but that's not what I do. I've always looked around for what the other person wants. And that's people pleasing. I
Right.
mean, it is. It's all right to, I mean, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, because there's not, but it's like, what about me? Like, what about yourself? It's such a, there's a lot of stuff that's been kind of coming forward, but I just think it's happening because of all the movement that's going on in the world. It's making us ask more questions, and for me, it's making me go more inside.
Yep. I've recognized the control too, in myself still popping up, and I'm like, whoa,
And
what
it's
is
all
happening?
right. Yeah, it's all right, but it's an awareness. It's just recognizing it.
Yeah. And that's
So
that, I mean, that's the best we can do too, is recognize it's there, make the adjustment and move on. Cause I'm not gonna sit there and berate myself, beat myself up about it. It's just, okay, this is still showing up in this way.
isn't that interesting?
Isn't
That's
that
how I feel.
interesting? Yep.
Isn't that interesting? That's pretty amazing.
Isn't that interesting that I'm still showing up like that? It's not as intense,
No, exactly.
because before I used to be pretty intense. It's still there. And I know. So, and when you talk about, making a list for your day, um, and not looked at it like that, like the way you have said, like that's controlling
Yeah.
your day, which is, I can recognize that and I accept that. Um, and when when things are going on, when you have many things going on, to me, a list is to keep me organized. Like, remember you got to do this because this affects the next thing, which affects the next thing, right? And so, an organization I mean, first and foremost for my business is that there's certain things I got to do in certain orders. And if I don't do them, then, right. But I do recognize that, in fact, I did this yesterday, is, um, the energy that we have within ourselves is what we put into whatever we're doing. So, for instance, writing a book. If I'm frustrated and irritated, I'm sitting there and I'm struggling writing a book, that energy is going into that book, and I don't want that, right? And so it's the same as if I'm low on energy, or I'm not feeling well, or I'm pissed off about something that didn't go my way because I was being controlling, right? So, um, that is not a time to work on my business. It's not, because I'm putting that energy into it. And so, really being aware, that's something that, because before I would have pushed through it. I don't care how mad I would have been, I would just kept
Yeah.
going and do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
And now
No
I'm
matter
like,
how tired. Even if you were tired, you'd have pushed yourself through it.
yep, I know. And so,
Yeah.
and I think that's a blessing when you are a business owner, in the sense that you're more apt to take the time for yourself and be aware of the energy you're putting out. Whereas when I was an employee, I was mad all the time at everybody and still working and hating life, right? And so,
Yeah.
and not being able to just go, hey, I need to walk away from this for like an hour, or I'm going to walk away from this and I'll be back when I'm regrouped, right? So,
Yeah.
and you don't have that option when you're an employee. So, um, as a self-employed, that's a huge benefit for sure, that I'm being more aware of the energy I put into my business.
And maybe it's the energy that as you're making your list too. So, because I'm thinking about this as you're saying it, because it's good because you are a business owner, but our guidance guides us to what do we need to do next. But you've got like a template. So if we look at it as a template, I don't have to get this stuff done, but this would be nice that this is kind of like a guideline that I'd like to kind of run my day. But it's not being, because before would have been obsessed about the list. I would have been obsessed about the control of it.
Yeah.
I the kids would have came in or something. I would be like, you guys need to go do this because I've got to do this stuff still. You know what I mean? It would have been,
Get out.
because that's how it would have been. But it's a whole energy thing. I talk to my clients all the time. It's not, I don't care what you do, painting, singing, drawing, poetry, writing a book. It doesn't matter whatever it is. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but it's like it has everything to do with what the energy is that you're putting into it. Everything. Because if you see art, and some people, so if I'm in a victim state and I go to an art exhibit and it's all a very emotional art exhibit, it could be splotches of color, but that person that put that splotches of color was very emotional when they put that down. And that's what you're drawn to. People don't recognize that that's what we're actually drawn to.
Yeah.
It's not so much as the art as the energy of the person that put that art there. It's not so much as the book as the energy of that book.
Right.
Like, because then it's like you're wanting to pass that energy to everybody because it's like you got it. It like totally resonated with you. It uplifted you. It filled your heart.
Right.
So thinking about that, if you've written all your book and you recognize there's places, it's almost like going back in and as you're proofreading it, like being in this place of joy because this information got to flow from you. So you're changing that energy before it ever even hits anybody. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know for sure, but it's like, well, this is our world. We can play with it however we want to. And that to me sounds like a good fun time.
Yep. And it's true, like writing a book. Yeah, writing a book. I could, so here's some scenarios that could happen, right? I
Mhm.
could write the crappiest book, but have the most joy and love in it, and it would be a top seller.
Yeah.
I could write the most amazing book and have low energy in the fact, like, who's going to want to buy this? Who's going to want to read this? It's probably not going to be good enough, and it would do very poorly, but it could be an
Yep.
amazing book, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, energy is key when you're doing anything of that sort. When you talk about paintings, um, I was involved in a business where we had artists bring in their artwork, and I would look at that artwork and I knew exactly what state that person was in when they painted it. And I was like, I knew, like, that's not going to sell. That's not going to sell. That's not going to sell. That will sell. Like, it was 1 out of 5 pieces that would sell because of it's the energy for sure. And the energy at the time it was created. Now, in from my perspective, it wasn't going to sell. But from what you're saying, like if somebody comes in who is resonating in the energy of that person at the time it was created, they will purchase it.
Exactly. If they're angered, if they're
Yep.
sad, if they've been hurt, it just depends on whatever is in that picture and how. So it's just like going to the grocery store on an empty stomach, right? You're going to buy whatever catches your eye. But it's
Right.
like when you're in that space and you're in that energy, you're going to gravitate towards whatever matches your energy, no
Absolutely.
matter what. It's the same with people. It's the same exact. I thought about recently, a person could lead, I want to say revolution, but it wouldn't be a revolution because in my energy, it's not to be in a bad way. It's for the greatest good. So in that space, whatever energy you choose to be in, if you choose to be in the highest energy, everybody is going to listen because everybody's going to hear you because they're going to feel they're on it. And they're not even going to understand why, not everybody, because everybody hasn't made it to, that place where they can understand why. They just know that it feels better. It's
Right.
just like a moth gravitating towards the light, right?
Right.
Which is funny I say that because it seems like they seem to be landing. I'll be doing something and it's like, well, they're just come from, they're just landing on me and hanging out with me. I'm like, okay, let's go for a walk, I guess. I don't know.
Here you are.
It's funny, but it's true. It has everything to do with what we're putting out. Everything. I mean, and that's on a visual scale, but on it, like what we put out posts, we talk about all the time is like whatever energy you're putting out, you're advertising, you want more. So it's the same thing. It's just another way of looking at it. It's another way that you can look at it and feel it and see it. And probably at some point, maybe if you love collecting art, there might be some pieces that you collected and it's like after so many years and you've gone through changes or after so many months, you look at it and you're like, why did I buy that? Well, that's why. It just resonated with you at that moment. It made sense to you at that moment, energetically.
Yeah, similar to I used to do the depressed shopping. So that was an addiction that when I got depressed, in order to help me feel good, I would go and I would buy clothes. And then what do you think happened with those clothes? They were in my closet. I get out of the state I'm in. I'm no longer attracted to those clothes. because the energy I had when I bought them first, and second, I'm like, I don't even know why I bought this, just like you said, because I don't even like it really, you know? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's amazing what we
And
do.
that just goes to looking outside of yourself, right? So that goes back, everything goes back to inside of yourself.
Yep.
The note is just a reminder to kind of glance at, or the schedule for the day is just to kind of glance at to see, eh, it'll happen. I'm gonna put it on a piece of paper and I'm gonna let my guidance guide me through it. And how many times have you done it? I've done it. I mean, I don't even do lists anymore, but it's like I have an idea. These are the things that I need to do that day. And things, we always do exactly what needs to be done. I mean, it always happens like it's supposed to. The only thing where we wreck it is by second guessing ourselves and think if we didn't do a good enough job. You were exactly the way you were supposed to be in that moment every time.
Yep.
But it's not looking outside of self, because the more that we look outside of self, like, right, to satisfy that desire to, because we're feeling bad or feeling whatever, and then you go buy those clothes, you could get those clothes and be like, it just makes you more depressed, because it's like, why did I go blow that money on that? Why did I feel, there's just so many different ways I think about orders, or, they think that it's going to bring satisfaction because it's outside of them, but they don't recognize they're never going to be able to fill this hole inside with all the stuff outside of them. It's never going to happen, because the hole inside is just wanting your attention, you to give attention to self.
And I mentioned this uh, last week or the week before, that having a regular meditation practice, consistent meditation practice, my list went from like this to like this. Like every day is so much shorter. And it's because I was putting the energy behind, oh, I got to get this done, I got to get that done, I got to, I don't have enough time to do. And so I was in that angst energy that whatever you focus on grows. So the universe is like, oh, you don't have enough time for this, okay, well, we're going to give you more of this, because that's anyway, it's just crazy cycle. And the other thing that I do is I have my list. So on Sunday I sit down and I write out my whole week of the things that I'm not going to say need to get done, but would be important if I do them. So
Yeah.
or there were just reminders for myself that, oh, I want to take care of this, or I want to take care of that. So I'll lay out my week, and each day in the morning when I'm doing my grounding process, I just say, I just ask that I have enough time, space, and energy to give attention to the tasks that need my energy today, right? It's just some form of saying, whatever needs my attention today, I have enough time, space, and energy for it.
I like that.
And I use that. I've been using that for several years, because I had a job. My last corporate job was that it was never ending. It was just go on hyper speed times 3. Like, it was intense, and you just felt like you never got a break or a breath, or because head down, pounding the papers. And I got in this space where I was focused on, there's so much to do, there's so much to do, there's so much to do. And the universe is like, yep, there is, here's some more, here's some more, here's some more. I was like, geez. And then of course somebody else would walk in and say, here, I need this done right now, but right. So I created that mantra when all the way to work, I would say it. I just ask that I have enough time, space, and energy to complete the tasks that need my attention today. And I just put it on repeat in my head. I would say it over and over and over and over and over. And the more I focused on that mantra, the less intense my job got, which was awesome.
That is awesome.
Finally, like a reprieve, but I would get triggered because then, everything's going good. And then somebody walks in and says, oh, I got this project, they needed that, right? And they want it right now. And then my head, I get triggered, I go in a spin. Oh my God, I don't have enough time for this. Oh my gosh, right? guess what happens? More work got piled on me. So then I go back to I mean, it's just, that's the learning curve, is recognize you're doing it, make the adjustment, move forward.
True. You know, you brought up meditation. I had a client I got this bird always comes and hangs out. He's hanging out right now, and it's like, I know who it is, like it, but he always shows up. Anyways, I got this distraction apparently. I got this a client, and he says to me, he says, "What? How do you meditate?" And then it's like I told him many different ways how I feel. You could do by breathing, you know, guided, all this other stuff. And he says, "But what if you meditated all day? What if you, every movement you," and it gives me goosebumps, every movement you did, every thought you did, everything that you did throughout the day was a meditation. He's like, "What if you just did it that way?" And it's like that presented, I think when he presented that question to me, then I started understanding control, right? Trying to control everything, because even still, I'm still trying to, no matter how I look at it, it's still me trying to control it by doing something else. Oh, I better go do this so I can burn it. I better go do that. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to control how these feelings are coming through. So going through that place like that, when I'm in that, because that's my plan now, I'm like asking the universe, well, what does that look like? How do I do that all day long? How do I be, because that's in the now, but so how do I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what it feels like to do that all day. I've had moments. So the more I'm doing it, then you talked about triggers, which brings me like to the next thing. I'm eating breakfast the other morning, which was an amazing breakfast. And all of a sudden, you know, the song and the angel saying, do, do, that song. Well, then he tells me what song, you know, who sang the song. So I go look it up. I think it was Lou Reed. I go look it up and I play the song and I started freaking bawling. He's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I don't even know." And then I tried to control that. I tried to be like, "Okay, I don't even know what it's about. Where'd this come from?" You know, and then it's like, wait a minute. That I felt like it was just my way. We're in a time space right now where energies are being released from us. We don't have to know why. I've been asking for these things, you know, for blocks, whatever's in my way that's for the greatest good, because I know that there's something big for me. And I think we probably all know there's something big for us, because everything we do is big, especially when we're in that, in the higher energy. No matter what you're doing, it's huge. So it's like it just kind of guided me into that space that I've recognized. And I've had a few more triggers, but it's like I had that and I was like, I appreciated that trigger more than I've ever appreciated triggers. I had emotional triggers even that night. And it's like I had dreams about where I felt like I was being shown that I could see things before it could happen. I think we all can. You know, it's an awareness. It's slowing down enough to hear all that. And you can't do it if you're not in the now. You can't be there if you're not moving meditation or however you want to call it. I just don't feel like it's possible. I think unless you, I just don't think I just don't know how it would be possible. I really feel like you've got to be relaxed. You've got to be in this space of where you're trying not to control anything, not trying not to control. That sounded hilarious. But where you're just letting everything go. You're just releasing it. It doesn't mean that you don't care. It just means you don't have an attachment to it. You have an awareness to it. You're not trying to control it. Man, stand by for the rest of this freaking journey.
Right.
I'm like, yep, there goes the book. I was writing, you know, whatever I was writing, it's gone.
Well, when I teach a meditation class, it is for beginners. Anybody can attend it, but it is for beginners, because that's the question. How do you meditate? I don't know how. I have too much mind chatter. I got, you know, all these stuff going. I worry about everything. Okay. Well, when I teach meditation, my whole purpose is to teach people to be present. And so it goes, that makes sense when you said, well, what if all day could, the whole day could be meditation? The whole day is about being present, right? Enjoy the moment, enjoy what I'm doing right here, right now, because the stuff that we are usually consuming ourselves with is the stories of the past, and then the stories we're telling ourselves about the future, the what if stories, right? Well, what if that happened? And not, again, control. We have no control over any of it, because the past already is done, and the future we don't even know if it's going to exist or doesn't exist really, because it's right here, right now. And so that's an interesting way of receiving that. What if the whole day is a meditation? And then, like I said, I would translate that as, what if the whole day is just about being present?
It's the same.
Yeah, it's the same. To me, it's the same.
It is. It goes hand in hand. It really does.
And then that, because the other thing when it comes to meditation or healing is, I call it micromanaging your thoughts. And so in the sense, I mean, that sounds like a job and a lot of work. But really it's like, okay, I just had this thought and it doesn't feel good. Well, what is it about this thought that doesn't feel good? Well, I was thinking about an experience that happened 10 years ago, and it just, whatever conversation I just had maybe made me think of that, made me think of that person, maybe think of that situation. And now that situation, I'm pulling it forward. Now I don't feel good, because we are so willy-nilly about our thoughts. Our thoughts are so freaking random. And when you give attention to your thoughts, then you can recognize, like taking an inventory, what kind of thoughts am I having? What's triggering these thoughts? Or, just being curious and inquisitive. And if you're doing more of that, you're going to recognize where those thoughts are coming from. And to me, it's like, I don't want to waste my time on that. My time and energy. I want to be right here, right now. And right here, right now doesn't have anything to do with that past experience or the future things that I'm concerned about, because I don't have any control over any of it.
You don't. And it's not happening right now. And a lot of times people are talking about other people's stories. But really, a lot of times. And it's like, even like you said, and my client, I mean, I have people in my life that do the same thing. And I'm sure I probably find myself, I know I have in the past for sure, on a regular basis, argue for our limitations. Well, I can't do that because my mind won't slow down. I can't do that because this has happened. I keep trying. Those are your words. Like, be aware of your words, because those are your words. You want to know what's limiting yourself? Those words. Because I've done it. I recognize it. And that's why I even catch it, like even the trying now. Like if I say trying, even if we say need, it's because it's not something that happened overnight. It was a practice. It was a recognition. It's an awareness. It's being aware of where your thoughts are going. Because when you're saying that stuff, you can't get there. Oh my gosh, I lost my keys. Well, guess what? I can't find my keys if I feel like they're lost. I can't. But I can know they're going to show up.
They're
Exactly.
right in front of your face.
Almost always. But I can know they're going to show up at some point, but I'm not supposed to have them right this second. So I go off and do something else, and guess what? It shows up. So it's the same thing. And it's not, before I used to think these, saying the I ams and saying all the, creating words for yourself for the day, affirmations, all this stuff was, some people say fake it till you make it. It's not faking it. You're downloading new information. So just process that as downloading new information. I don't have to believe this right this second, but I'm putting new information in, because I don't have to believe the other stuff. I don't have to believe in the lack of. I don't have to. That's a choice. So it's just all of us in awareness. If you're in the now, you're aware. You're not trying to repeat the story. I have been aware and then recognize where I'm pulling some of the past back in. And because I'm aware, I'm like, why are you bringing that forward right now? What's the purpose of bringing that forward right now? But it's different when I receive information, because if I'm in the now space, if I'm in the meditation space, however you want to call it, I think it's just being now, all day, having an awareness all day long. And that seems like a chore, but it's not. It is so freaking easy. Like, your life will flow so amazingly for me, I'm noticing, just by not controlling it. And then someone else kept telling me, Raymond, kept telling me, he said, do you realize that you're trying to control the control? And I was like, whatever, that's stupid. I mean, in my mind, I'm not processing it. And then it's like, he would say it, and it's like, it's planting seeds. So again, even I got to have seeds planted. I
Right.
do, because sometimes I don't catch that awareness. And it's like after a while, I start recognizing, because I am recognizing where I've been trying to control the control in a different way. I just lost a bunch of monkeys in my mind when I, had this process. Like, I don't need you guys anymore. Thanks. And again, I go back to the same thing that we talked about last week and probably the week before. When that happens, I recognize, especially if my child or my ego or my inner, this inner place, and I don't want to call it the dark place anymore. I don't want to really call it the ego anymore. It's just another aspect of me. It's like a child aspect of me in a lot of ways. It just wants that attention. It's doing what it knows how to from being a child. It knows how to react that way. And it's like I see that and it's like I just love that. I'm like, I love you. Like, thank you. Thank you, mind, for telling me this, but that's not how we believe anymore. Let's put this new information in. Affirmations, work, your I am statements, whatever it is, because you're just putting new information in.
Yeah, and in order to be and do better, or to make a shift towards a different being, you got to change, right? I got to change. You got to change. Somebody else, the mom's got to change. The dad's got to change. The employees each have to change. And then we don't have any control over that. We only have control over ourselves. And it is replacing old information with new. So today, in today's world, 2021, could you imagine using the technology today that when it started? We would be like, what is happening? We get frustrated when our computers are slow or the
Yeah.
internet's slow, right? And so we want to upgrade. We got to upgrade. And that means upgrading your mindset, upgrading your self-talk, upgrading your belief system, upgrading your habits, because we have some low vibrational habits. So we want to upgrade those with something better, or it feels better. Behaviors, right? There's just so much that to do within ourselves, but what we do too many times is focus on everybody else's flaws. And really, that's for them. And the only reason why it would bother me is because it's triggering me in some way. And then again, for me not to get triggered, there's some internal work for me to do.
Mhm.
Because if I say that person is triggering me, they need to change, then I'm saying my peace, my love, my joy is in their hands. Until they change, I'm going to remain the same. I'm going to keep getting triggered. I'm going to keep getting pissed. I'm going to, right? Frustrated. Where when you say, okay, they're triggering me, what is it in me that's getting triggered? So it's taking the responsibility of your own changes. Because if you're expecting things outside of you to change so you can be happy or joyful, it's probably not going to happen. Just saying. It's just
Or if
saying.
it does, it's going to be very short-lived, because
Be,
just like your partner learns how to be, your partner learns how to be with you, learns how to. Jim and I were together for 27 years. So you kind of learn how to tiptoe around certain things. You know how to trigger each other's buttons. You know what I mean? You know how to, which is so ironic now that I look back at stuff like that, because there were so many opportunities in that in every relationship, because we knew how to push each other's buttons.
Yep.
It's like, bing, there it is. And so that was like a perfect opportunity, an opportunity for me to sit back and be like, why is this triggering me? But it's like it didn't, because it's like I wasn't in that space for that change. And change is always going to happen. And we have people in our lives or people that we've seen that will freaking hold on to the past as hard as they possibly can. And that's okay. Because it reminds me that I can let go of the past. I don't have to hold on to that, because look how much that just takes away from living your life. It really just does. I can sit and think about everything that I did wrong in my past relationships while I'm in a current relationship and not enjoy that current relationship. It's so easy to do. And with Jim's passing, it's so easy to do, because then it's like, this person, and I'm like all over, I had been all over myself. And it's like, that's not what it's all about. I I've grown from that, and I don't have to be that way. There's so much better for you if you just let go of that stuff. And it's so easy to say, it really is, but it's got to be it's up to you. So kind of, I don't know whether it's good or bad, but if I notice that my attention's on something else, I'll ask myself, oh, let's focus on my teeth are nice and white and they're straight. Like, I'm visualizing, I'm taking that energy now from whatever I was doing to myself. My eyes are becoming clearer. I can see, I'm changing, and I don't know where it's going to go, but this has been my practice lately. And I mean, I'm creating my own energy. I'm creating it. So I feel like it's going to go always good, because I'm creating it. I'm pulling that back, that energy that I was sending out to whatever, which may sound so insignificant I guess, in the light of the new things that have happened around the world, but it's very significant, because to me, it is, because that's, if I'm doing this work for myself, I'm changing the blame, I'm changing the judgment, I'm changing the separation, I'm changing the way that I view things in the world, as far as finding the beauty in the world, finding the beauty within yourself. And that's helping me. When I recognize that stuff, it helps me bring that energy back to myself. At first I wasn't sure what to do with that, but that's where I've been lately. It's not, I feel like aging. So we've seen how people age in our families and stuff, and they'll say, well, this is going to happen to you, and this is going to, you just wait. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way at all. It's like, do I want to put my attention on that? Because a lot of people like to fear about that possibly happening. Oh my gosh, my skin. And no, it doesn't have to be that way. Focus on the things you want. Find someone there's so many things that we have online these days. You can look at the perfect abs. You can look at the perfect skin. It's not looking at it and thinking that you don't have it. It's looking at it and thinking, what if?
Right.
Because on some parallel, my being that is on all these parallels right now at one time in my beliefs is experiencing just that. They're having that experience. So why would I hold myself back on any of my parallels? Because to me, I feel like that's holding me back. If I'm holding myself back here, I'm holding myself back on all these balloons that are coming off of me, that are aspects of me, that are me. I'm holding all that back. Why? When I can join the freaking party and go and grow.
Wow, you go, girl. Woo! I'm like, oh, I'm feeling this.
Oh, that's awesome. See, there we go back to the energy thing.
Well, when it comes to, so we give our energy, our time and energy focused on something outside of ourselves, typically on other people.
Yes.
And you said, I'm going to bring that energy back. So I'm going to focus on myself. That's where the hiccup usually comes, because people don't want to focus on themselves. They don't want the attention on themselves, even if they're giving it to themselves, that it's not comfortable. And if they've been nitpicking their body for so long, I got all these wrinkles, or my teeth are crooked, or my nose is too big, or I have so much gray hair, right? They've been nitpicking their body. It's overweight, it's too skinny, it's too tall, it's too short, that they're, most, especially women, will focus on the um, external aspects of their body. And because they've been in that space for so long, to give any kind of attention to their own body is unacceptable. And so here's where we want to change the story, ladies and men, but I'm saying women really have an issue with this, is that stop focusing on the external. Take your attention off the external, because the more you give attention to it, the more it grows. So the more you see those wrinkles, the more you see those wrinkles, the more you see the weight, the more weight can come, right? So it's like Bev said, if you're giving your time and energy and focused outside of yourself, and that outside could be your external physical, could be as most likely other people and situations, that you draw that energy back into you and you just focus. Like, I'm so blessed I have my eyes to see. And I love that you said my eyes, my vision is getting clearer. And I have my ears to hear, my nose to smell, you know, my mouth gives me the opportunity to sing and talk and chew and swallow, you know, beverages, food, right? So there's so many aspects to our body that we do not even give enough or if any attention to. The organs, super
Yeah.
important, just saying, right? But
Super important.
because we can't see those aspects, like our bones and our muscles and our tendons and the cells and the atoms and the molecule, like because we can't see them, we forget about them. And that's, you know, that's one of my things is like out of sight, out of mind. A lot of people operate like that. And so when you're bringing that, your energy back and your time focused back onto yourself, then just go internal. That heart, those lungs, those kidneys, those liver, the bladder, like all of it matters. And that's where you can start, is focusing on the internal aspects of your body, drawing that energy back to yourself. Even your spirit, focusing on your spirit too.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
You know, something else that helps too is like when you're in that, and everybody knows, like if you're in that good mood, so I could use my grandchildren as an opportunity, or even like the sunset last night. I was like, oh my God, like the sunset was so, I was out doing weeds, which is another thing. It's like, don't even think about this stuff. It's like, I'm going to go do weeds right now. So I'm just following whatever guidance I'm getting, but I'm out there and oh my God, the sunset was so amazing. And it's like, when you're in that place where you feel that glorious feeling, when you feel so uplifted, like turn the camera around, look at yourself real quick. Look in the mirror real quick when you're experiencing those moments, because you're going to see a softness. You're going to see that soul inside of you that you love, that you're like, thank God. And then the more you do that, the more I'm going to advertise for that, the more I'm going to gravitate that way. Things are always going to work out, always. And they're always going to work out for your greatest good. And it feels good. Like you just know. But that's how I'm starting to recognize for me. That's one of the ways that I accidentally flipped the camera around and saw myself, and I'm like, oh, my soul's like totally enjoying
hello.
this whole view that I'm seeing right now, or the kids when they're saying stuff. It's so funny. I'm holding Vivi yesterday. We're walking around outside because I get her on Mondays and Tuesdays, and these are my mom's earrings, and there's a lot of, she reminds me of my mother in so many ridiculous ways. It's hilarious. But she like stops and she looks at this one. She holds it for a second. She stops and looks at this one, holds it for a second. And I said, these are my mom's. And she said, yes. And she just looked at them. I was like, mm-hmm. She's probably like, yes, what you got my earrings on for?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
I
funny.
love those when I
Just
get
funny.
older.
That's right. That's right. But it's like, it just made, those are little moments that it's like, if I was busy all the time, I wouldn't have caught that awareness of it. I wouldn't have enjoyed that moment of it. And it's like, it just fills my heart up. It just fills my heart up so big. It's like, what if she's my mom? Oh my God, I get to love my mom more than she ever got to be loved before. What an opportunity. Seriously. It's like, life is a blessing. And it's just however we want to look at it. And it's like, we can look at all this death stuff that's going on, death, transition back into spirit. I always like to say born back in the spirit. They just get to get birth back in the spirit. It's an amazing place. So they can bounce back in here, or if they choose to. But it's like, we put so much emphasis on that loss instead of what lives we have left to live here. Like, okay, so we lost some people. And I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, because it does matter. It does matter. It does matter to us a lot here. But it's like, are you living your best life for that person that just now is no longer in the physical being? Or did you get lost in this place we can call it victim, or we can call, there's, I mean, it's just another label for it, but we can get lost in this place of that loss. And it's just loss of ourselves. It's us. We're not, we've lost our connection. We're no longer in alignment if we're in that picture. And the
Yeah.
bigger picture is to love more, because there's been too much separation and there's been too much hate. And the love more starts within. It's not loving more everybody outside of yourself. It's loving yourself more, because then you overflow from that cup to everybody else, which we've talked about numerous times. It's huge. You want to make a difference? Those are ways to make a difference. You don't even have to leave your house. You don't even have to leave your mind. You don't even have to leave your soul. You're right there.
Just be right here.
That's right.
So many good points in what you just said. And I love that we're even having this conversation today. I was just listening to Greg Braden, and his he's very much into the he's healing, or spiritual healing, and how we're all connected. I mean, he's an amazing speaker and teacher, and talking about how, and it goes right along with what you just said, is when you're outside looking at the sunset and just being in that peace, like that affects the world. That affects every person on this planet. Like, it's incredible that energy that you're exuding in that moment of peace, and it just is extended out beyond you. And I mean, most people don't get that and don't understand it. And there's been studies done when they've had a group, a controlled group of people, and they are just sitting, and they strategically placed these people in different areas across, in different cities and stuff. And that at a specific time, they all just sat with themselves and expressed peace within themselves. Nothing else, not visualizing peace going out, not sending love out. It was just peace right here in my body, right here, right now. And that the crime incidences decreased. The hospital visitations were lower. There were like plans of certain war strategies that were supposed to happen, like a bombing was supposed to happen at a certain time, and it got pushed back. Like, and they tried it. He said that they tried these studies, like different cycles of the moon, because they, a full moon makes people crazy. And so they wanted to make sure, like, that how the cycles of the moon was affecting this project. But every single time, it was not, he goes, when you feel or believe that you need to send peace or love somewhere, then you're saying it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist there yet. When the fact is, it does. Just hasn't been brought up. The energy of it hasn't been lifted up high enough for the people, for the person or people to feel it. It already exists. Doesn't matter. And so he talks about how we're a hologram of the universe. And it doesn't matter if you break us into pieces, we're all connected. It's all the universe. So, and I love all of that. I love listening to it. I love the studies they've done. I love knowing that. I know in those moments that I have an expression of frustration or irritation, I allow myself to feel it, even anger. I allow myself to feel it, the sadness, and also recognize, is this what I want to be expressing out towards everybody else?
And if
So
we see lack of peace somewhere, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, if we see lack of peace somewhere else, I almost recognize that it's a lack of peace within self, right? Because there's always gonna be, wherever your attention's drawn to, or you're looking at, or you're bringing into your experience, there's a reason why. Like I can sit and look at you and think, oh, okay, I can bring that energy back into, some of the energy back into myself. I can focus on this or this or this, bringing the energy back in. Because that brings in, because I'm bringing that peace. I'm bringing, I'm having that peace. So then maybe if someone that's in peace all the time may not recognize that there's places that are not in peace right now. I'm just using that as an example because you had said that, and it's like it made me think of, just along with how I feel, like everything's kind of a representation outside of ourselves. And if I'm seeing a lack of peace somewhere or a lack of something, then I've got a lack of peace within my soul, because that's how we make a difference. That right there is just letting you know, hey, this is going on over here. How can you make a difference what's inside of yourself? Because like you said, we don't have control over that stuff. We don't, but we do. You know what I mean? Without us having to put the label of control on it, because it's bringing that energy right back into self again and bringing yourself into this flow. You had told me before, like I know that like our hearts, and gosh, who even knows now, like the more that we raise in this energy frequencies, the higher our vibration goes. I feel like things can even go out even beyond where we ever possibly could thought it could. But you had done, where you had listened to studies before, it talked about if you're in your heart center and then pushing that energy, finding that glorious space and then letting that energy just like flow out from you, like seeing it being extended from you. Man, you had talked about that stuff before, which is amazing to me. But I feel like it's true, because we affect everything and everyone around us. Everything. Like I kept driving through and thinking, oh my God, these cows really need, I'm gonna go get some hay. And it's like, no, I can do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But it's like I could be like in higher vibration, appreciating the earth, appreciating the rains, appreciating the trees, appreciating all that stuff, because it helps feed the next cycle. So I'm appreciating everything, not just for me, but it's just to have that appreciation, and it goes out to everything. And then we got more rains. Not that I had control over that, but things just happen. And I think the trees do, but they're like, hey, we need some rain over here.
And that's what I do when because I can sense the weather. Um, and it could be a clear day, but there's a scent. Like I don't even watch the weather channel. My husband tells me about the weather, but a lot of times because I ask him.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't ask, and I'll go out, and especially, during the monsoon, it could be an absolutely clear, beautiful day, but I can feel like there's rain coming, right? And so I'll
Yeah.
stand there and I will visualize, like feel the rain on me, and I will visualize the rain running off my roof and the yard getting filled up with water, like the gutters. So I feel all that and I see it, and then I'll go back inside. And I've done it a lot this year, and it's like sweet.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? But
I
the thing
like
is,
that.
we can do that with anything. We can do that. And this is a whole nother conversation, is about manifesting. And but to recognize that, control is a big deal. And when you think you have control over people outside of yourself, that can go awry. And people, and now, talking about people in higher positions who think they have control over others, we have seen in history, even they come down. And this isn't
Okay.
this isn't a means of being, like an activist or anything like that. It's the
Mhm.
fact is that people who attain positions like that, they have their own struggles, right? And they project that onto the people. And at some point, people will no longer resonate with those behaviors and things.
'Cause
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, because it doesn't feel good, right?
Right.
It's recognizing what doesn't feel good.
Right. And so keeping that in mind, we talk about ourselves. I talk about like I know I cannot control anybody. I cannot fix anybody. I am not responsible for anybody but myself. And so turning that attention back into me. And that's just what I say all the time, many times over. My goal is to be and do better in myself. To be and do better in myself, because that's the only control I have. And by doing that within myself, I am an example. I don't need to be a coach or a teacher or a spiritual advice. I don't need to do any of that. Just being within myself and practicing what feels good to me. I am a teacher in that aspect because I am the example. And please know, it doesn't mean I'm perfect. We had this conversation last week about perfect and being imperfect. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Doesn't mean I have it all figured out. What I do have is the tools to recognize it quicker, make the changes quicker, but keep going.
That's awesome. And something else I want to present just for people to think about. What if all the stuff outside of us, all the stuff that's going on with people in higher power, what if it's just to distract you from going within? Because we're so much powerful when we go within. And not powerful that I'm going to go blow up the world or anything like that, but powerful and I can raise the world. Like I have that power. And when
Yep.
I say I have, we all have that power.
Oh,
So to me, like everything I feel like lately is just a distraction outside of ourselves. And it not lately, it always has been. There's always been something that's been going on that could be in a relationship, it could be at work, it could be whatever, distracting you from being within self, from loving self. It's taking your energy away from you. And think of how amazing things could be. So maybe Kingman doesn't need to be so cleared out as much as we think, as we have such people here that are so willing to raise the vibration that it raises the vibration for all. It's not a matter of a clearing, it's an uplifting.
yep.
We don't even have to do anything and it's happening. We're doing it right now.
Yep. I call it my spiritual power. And I ask Archangel Michael every day. I'm like, I tell him, please help me have the courage to show up in my spiritual power today. Like I'm declaring I have it. Now help me have the courage to use it, right? So
Yeah.
if you want to know more about how one person can affect others vibrationally, then there's also not only Greg Braden, there's Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, but another one that's really good to read is Power versus Force by David Hawkins. And he talks about how like one person in a high vibrational state of love can affect, I think it's like 750,000 people. One person. And that's just
I like that.
it is just being in the state. It is not me being in the state and trying to send it out because I don't think it exists out there. It's just me being in the state. End of story. Me, that's it. Or Bev, or it just that's it. Like I don't have to go out and talk to people and try to convince them of anything. Just being in the state of love, of peace, of calmness, of contentment. You're sending, they're just sending it out. I know. I'm just like, come on. So yes, just practice it within yourself.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
Yeah.
But what I know for myself is that the more calm I am, the more calm my day is. My tasks are easy. Things flow. There's ease in the day. Like everything is just wonderful. It's just beautiful the way it flows.
Absolutely.
So
Loving it.
step up your game and your spiritual power. It's my closing words.
That's nice. Love yourself. Like, see how it, play with it. See how it feels. It feels totally different. I know. I could probably show you some angry teenager pictures of myself. I have not always been this person.
Yeah,
Even if you went to the back to the beginning of our recordings, I've even changed even since then. So it's like, because we're all changing.
always.
I'm happier with me now. I don't care if anybody else is, because I just love myself. I'm finding what my perfect is for me. What feels good.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Your perfect is for you. I love it. All right, my friends, thank you so much for your time and energy. And we know that you could have spent it doing something else, but you chose to be here with us. So thank you for listening or watching Tea Time with Amie and Bev. Just a side note for anyone, even for yourself or anyone you want to share our information with, they can find us on Spreaker, Spotify. That's funny. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Podcast Addict, and YouTube. And in our Facebook page, which is Amie and Bev. And then our Facebook group is Amie and Bev Community. That's a
Awesome.
lot.
That is a lot.
Woo.
I'm glad you're doing it and not me,
Woo.
because it would have been all one word.
I know. We're spreading the love in every avenue that I can get it in.
I love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you more than you know.
All right, my friends. Thank you so much for being with us. Be sure to leave some comments or questions. We'll get to them as quickly as we can and share our wisdom and knowledge in the best way we can. And we love you. We love your energy. Thank you for being here, and have an amazing week. Create an amazing week.
Yeah, make a magical week. Loving it.
Mwah. See you next week.